Christabel by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Structure, Summary, Analysis. Hello and welcome to the discourse. Christabel is an unfinished long narrative poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge published in 1816. Coleridge wrote the poem in two parts and planned to complete it in five. The first part was written in 1797 and the second was completed in 1800. Coleridge wished to publish the first part in the first volume of the Lyrical Ballads, his poetic collection, in collaboration with William Wordsworth. However, Wordsworth advised him not to publish the poem as it was incomplete. The poem clearly shows the stark difference between the writing styles of William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Wordsworth's poetry is characterized by its simplicity, directness, and focus on the natural world. Coleridge's style is more complex and ornate. He favored a more elevated, almost mystical tone, often employing vivid imagery and elaborate metaphors. His poems frequently delve into supernatural themes, exploring the boundaries between the real and the unreal, dreams and reality. Christabel is an incomplete long narrative that tells the story of Christabel and Geraldine, featuring supernatural Gothic elements. Though incomplete, it is Coleridge's longest poem with almost 700 lines. He completed the second part in 1800 and wrote a conclusion to it, but the poem was considered incomplete and was not published in the second edition of Lyrical Ballads. The poem remained unpublished for several years and was first published in the collection of three poems, Christabel, Kubla Khan a Vision, and The Pains of Sleep, by the John Murray Press on 25 May 1816. Structure of Christabel. Christabel is written in two parts, each consisting of multiple sections and stanzas. The stanzas vary in length, contributing to the poem's lyrical and narrative quality. Coleridge used an accentual metrical system or accentual verse, focusing on the number of stressed syllables per line rather than a fifth syllabic pattern. He maintained tetrameter, 4 accentuated syllables, throughout the poem. Though there are some variations, there are some trimeter lines. The poem has an irregular rhyming scheme. Coleridge employed rhyming couplets and alternative rhyming lines at various places in the poem. The inconsistent rhyming scheme increases the mystery and ambiguity of the poem. Imagery, symbolism, metaphors, personification, apostrophe, irony, juxtaposition, and enjambment have been used in the poem. The speaker of Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem is an unnamed third-person omniscient narrator who creates mystery, ambiguity, and suspense while offering a Gothic setting to the story. The speaker can also be seen as a universal voice, echoing the poem's exploration of good versus evil and the mysterious nature of women. Summary of Christabel. Part 1, Stanza 1, lines 1 to 13. "'Tis the middle of night by the castle clock, and the owls have awakened the crowing cock." The speaker immediately immerses the reader in a nocturnal setting, evoking feelings of mystery and suspense. The contrast between the castle clock and the owls creates a vivid picture of a secluded, possibly foreboding place. Owls are often associated with wisdom and omens, adding to the poem's mystical quality. To wit, to who, and hark again, the crowing cock, how drowsily it crew. The onomatopoeic to wit, to who replicates the sounds of owls, enhancing the sensory experience and creating an auditory landscape that draws the reader in. The crowing cock signifies the transition from night to day, often representing vigilance and the presence of truth. However, the phrase drowsily it crew suggests a sense of lethargy and perhaps apprehension, indicating that not everything is as it seems. It is midnight, and the crowing cock not only adds ambiguity but also suggests that truth and light are lethargic at the hour. Sir Leoline, the Baron Rich, hath a toothless mastiff bitch. The speaker introduces Sir Leoline, the Baron Rich, a character of importance, emphasizing his wealth and status. The phrase establishes a sense of nobility. The toothless mastiff bitch symbolizes vulnerability and decay. perhaps reflecting the state of the Baron's household. The Mastiff is typically a guardian dog, but its toothlessness suggests ineffectiveness in protection. From her kennel beneath the rock, she maketh answer to the clock. 4 for the quarters and 12 for the hour, ever and aye, by shine and shower. 16 short howls, not over loud. The description of the dog's rhythmic howling echoes the structure of time and adds an ominous tone, suggesting an unsettling presence in the night. Some say she sees my lady's shroud. A shroud is a cloth or sheet that is put around a dead body before it is buried. The line adds an element of eeriness and death, suggesting ominous supernatural elements. Is the night chilly and dark? The night is chilly but not dark. The speaker questions and answers to set up the ambiguity and contrast, further increasing the tension. While the night is cold, there is still a presence of light, albeit muted. The thin grey cloud is spread on high. It covers but not hides the sky. He creates a visual image that conveys a sense of gloom. The clouds are described as thin, suggesting that while they are present, they do not entirely obscure the sky, a metaphor for hope or illumination amidst darkness. The moon is behind and at the full, and yet she looks both small and dull. This imagery suggests that even when full, the moon lacks its usual vibrancy, reflecting perhaps feelings of melancholy or disillusionment. The night is still, the cloud is grey. 'Tis a month before the month of May, and the spring comes slowly up this way. It is early spring, a time often associated with renewal and growth. However, there is a delay in the season's arrival in this part of the world, symbolizing a struggle for renewal and the persistence of winter's chill. The stanza conveys a sense of melancholy, yet the presence of the moon and the anticipation of spring hints at an underlying hope for change and brighter days ahead. Stanza 3, lines 23 to 30. The lovely lady Christabel, whom her father loves so well. The speaker introduces Christabel, the center character, evoking a sense of beauty and purity. The reference to her father's love suggests a protective familial bond. What makes her in the wood so late, a furlong from the castle gate? The questions create a sense of mystery, implying a departure from safety and comfort, enhancing the poem's tension. She is quite far away from the castle and alone, in the middle of the night. She had dreams all yesternight of her own betrothed knight, and she in the midnight wood will pray for the weal of her lover that's far away. The speaker answers and sets the theme of love and longing. Christabel's dreams reflect her emotional state and connection to her beloved, highlighting her innocence and devotion. The act of praying not only shows her piety but also her vulnerability, as she seeks protection for her lover who is distant and possibly in danger. It also adds to the mystery. There must be a church or a prayer hall within the castle, so why is she outside in the woods? Stanza 4, lines 31 to 36. She stole along, she nothing spoke. The sighs she heaved were soft and low. These lines suggest a sense of caution and stealth. She is aware of her surroundings and possibly the dangers that lurk in the woods. And naught was green upon the oak, but moss and rarest mistletoe. There was nothing green on the tree, spring had yet to come. The moss and mistletoe symbolize life and fertility, but also imply decay, creating a contrast between beauty and desolation. She kneels beneath the huge oak tree, and in silence prayeth she. The oak tree is the symbol of the strength and endurance of nature. The oak tree is considered sacred and abode of gods in various pagan tribes. It is like the peepal tree in Hinduism and Buddhism. Christabel's act of kneeling beneath the huge oak tree signifies humility and reverence. Stanza 5, lines 37 to 42. The lady sprang up suddenly, the lovely lady Christabel. The stanza introduces fear of the unknown. Christabel is startled or alarmed, creating a sense of urgency and anticipation. It moaned as near can be, but what it is she cannot tell. On the other side, it seems to be of the huge, broad-breasted old oak tree. Christabel notices something, someone ominous. She is not sure what it is. The moaning sounds evoke a feeling of dread and uncertainty. The huge, broad-breasted old oak tree reinforces the dignity of the oak tree. It is the boundary between safety and the unknown, highlighting the contrast between the familiar, the oak, and the mysterious force that surround her. Stanza 6, lines 43 to 52. The night is chill, the forest bare. Is the wind that moaneth bleak? There is not wind enough in the air to move away the ringlet curl from the lovely lady's cheek. Christabel is alone in the stark environment, and the moan appears mysterious and dreadful. She wonders if it is the wind that created the sound. The speaker mentions that the air is silent and the wind is feeble, even not strong enough to move her hair curls spread across her face, evoking a delicate image of Christabel, highlighting her beauty and vulnerability. The stillness and quietude of the scene are obvious, but there were moans. There is not wind enough to twirl the one red leaf, the last of its clan, that dances as often as dance it can, hanging so light and hanging so high on the topmost twig that looks up at the sky. She wonders again and notices that the wind cannot even flutter the single red leaf still intact on the barren oak. The one red leaf introduces a poignant image of solitude and fragility. It is not green, nothing is green, and it is the last of the leaves of oak that has not yet fallen in the cold. The loneliness and struggle of the leaf against the stillness mirror Christabel's own plight. The imagery increases the tension, highlighting her isolation and vulnerability. Stanza 7, lines 53 to 57. Hush, beating heart of Christabel, Jesu, Maria, shield her well. She folded her arms beneath her cloak and stole to the other side of the oak. What sees she there? The speaker mentions that Christabel notices the source of the moaning and she is afraid. Her beating heart symbolizes her fear and vulnerability. The appeal for protection from Jesus and Mary suggests a reliance on faith in moments of peril. She is frightened and curious, and she tries to locate the source of the moaning and ascertain what it is. Stanza 8, lines 58 to 68. There she sees a damsel bright, dressed in a silken robe of white, that shadowy in the moonlight shone the neck that made that white robe wan. Her stately neck and arms were bare, her blue-veined feet unsandaled were, and widely glittered here and there the gems entangled in her hair. I guess it was frightful there to see a lady so richly clad as she, beautiful exceedingly. The word damsel is an old-fashioned term that means a young unmarried girl. It is often used in the idiom damsel in distress to describe a woman who needs to be rescued. Christabel sees a girl, a bright maiden, dressed in a white silk robe, symbolizing purity, beauty, and richness. Because of clouds, the moonlight is dim and she appears as a shadow, adding to the mystery. Stately neck emphasizes the damsel's richness and nobility. However, her neck and arms are bare, which adds to ambiguity. She appears rich but not well dressed. She did not have sandals on her feet, the veins in her foot were visible. But her curled hair and gems, as she appeared rich but disarrayed. The ambiguity reflects the duality of beauty and danger. Her presence invokes fear, suggesting that beauty can be both captivating and menacing. Stanza 9, lines 69 to 70. Mary Mother, save me now, said Christabel, and who art thou? Christabel realizes her vulnerability, loneliness, and strangeness of the richly appearing girl in the forest in the middle of the night. She asks for protection from Mother Mary before inquiring about the damsel. She is instinctively cautious. Stanza 10, lines 71 to 78. The lady strange made answer meet, and her voice was faint and sweet. Have pity on my sore distress, I scarce can speak for weariness. Stretch forth thy hand and have no fear, said Christabel, how camest thou here? And the lady, whose voice was faint and sweet, did thus pursue her answer meet. The strange lady notices Christabel's fears and offers an appropriate yet enigmatic response. Her voice appears weak but pleasing. The damsel begets an emotional connection between her and Christabel by appealing for help and trust amidst uncertainty, as the lady seeks to establish a connection. She begs for Christabel's pity, actually presenting herself as a damsel in distress. Now there are two characters in the states of need and uncertainty, and both are vulnerable. Or is it a deception? The lady's voice is faint and enticing. Christabel shows empathy, vulnerability, and bravery as she asks, how did the damsel reach there? The strange lady judges Christabel's inquisitiveness before answering appropriately. Stanza 10, lines 79 to 89. My sire is of noble line, and my name is Geraldine. 5 warriors seized me yestermorn, me, even me, a maid forlorn. They choked my cries with force and fright, and tied me on a palfrey white. The palfrey was as fleet as wind, and they rode furiously behind. They spurred amain, their streets were wide, and once we crossed the shade of night. The damsel affirms that she belongs to nobility as her father, sire, is of a noble line, like that of Christabel. She mentions her name is Geraldine and tells her story evoking Christabel's sympathy. She informs that she was abducted by 5 strong warriors. This offers a contrast between nobility and vulnerability. Women are vulnerable irrespective of their social status. She was abducted yesterday in the morning time. The warriors forcefully traumatized her and tied her to a white palfrey, a kind of horse often used by rich noblemen during the period. The warriors were inurgent as they drove furiously. All the horses of the warriors were white, suggesting a juxtaposition. The white palfrey symbolizes purity, innocence, and good intentions. But they were abducting a maid forlorn. The damsel further says what happened at the night. Stanza 10, lines 90 to 99. As sure as heaven shall rescue me, I have no thought what men they be, nor do I know how long it is, for I have lain entranced, I wis. Since one, the tallest of the 5, took me from the palfrey's back, a weary woman scarce alive. Some muttered words his comrades spoke. He placed me underneath this oak. He swore they would return with haste. The 5 warriors forcibly took the damsel Geraldine in the morning and ran on their horses throughout the day. As the night approached, one of the warriors, the tallest one, took her off the back of the white palfrey and kept her under the oak tree. He mentioned that they will return soon. Why did they abduct her, if not to exploit her? And if they wished to exploit her, why did they leave her underneath the oak tree as the night approached? Were they afraid of something? Why did they choose the sacred divine oak tree? And now, when Geraldine is free of any bound, why cannot she rescue herself and flee away? Stanza 10, lines 100 to 104. Whither they went I cannot tell. I thought I heard, some minutes past, sounds as a castle bell. Stretch forth thy hand, thus ended she, and help a wretched maid to flee. Geraldine says that she heard the castle bell and thought of asking for help from Christabel while depicting herself as a wretched maid. Stanza 11, lines 105 to 112. Then Christabel stretched forth her hand and comforted fair Geraldine. O well, bright dame, may you command the service of Sir Leoline, and gladly our stout chivalry will he send forth, and friends withal, to guide and guard you safe and free home to your noble father's hall. Geraldine succeeds in making the connection and trust with Christabel, as Christabel stretches her hand to help Geraldine empathize with her. She shows compassion and solidarity and assures her by mentioning her father's name, Sir Leoline. This changes the scenario as the damsel in distress is now empowered Geraldine, suggesting that she is not just a victim but a figure of authority. Christabel accepts Geraldine's nobility and says that if she commands, her father will be happy to send the best of his noble knights to return Geraldine to her father's castle with protection and honor. Christabel assures of guiding and guarding Geraldine, emphasizing the theme of hope. It instills a sense of optimism that rescue and safety are within reach, contrasting the earlier feelings of fear and helplessness. Stanza 12, lines 113 to 123. She rose, and forth with steps they passed, that strove to be, and were not fast. Her gracious stars the lady blessed, and thus spake on sweet Christabel. All our household are at rest, the hall as silent as the cell. Sir Leoline is weak in health, and may not well awakened be. But we will move as if in stealth, and I beseech your courtesy this night to share your couch with me. Geraldine accepted Christabel's helping hand and rose up, but she was weak as she walked past the oak tree. They walked back towards the castle cautiously. Geraldine, depicted as a damsel in distress, now appears blessed by her lucky stars, as if she got what she wished for. Christabel informs that her father, who is now old, is not healthy these days, and it would not be appropriate to wake him up at this odd hour of the night. This clarifies why Christabel came out of the castle stealthily. She did not wish to disturb her father, nor did she wish to do so now. She asks Geraldine to walk silently so that nobody gets disturbed in the castle hall, which is all silent. She further requests Geraldine to share her room and her bed to sleep for the night, as she does not wish to disturb her father. The request signifies a growing intimacy between the two women. This invitation implies trust and a desire for companionship, as well as a sense of vulnerability. They crossed the moat, and Christabel took the key that fitted well. A little door she opened straight, all in the middle of the gate that was ironed within and without, where an army in battle array had marched out. The lady sank, belike through pain, and Christabel with might and main lifted her up, a weary weight, over the threshold of the gate. Then the lady rose again, and moved as she were not in pain. Crossing the moat symbolizes a transition from safety to danger. It refers to crossing a defensive trench around a castle. The enemy cannot cross the trench without using a drawbridge controlled by the castle owners. Without Christabel's help, Geraldine could not have crossed the moat. Christabel has the key to the huge iron gate of the castle. Instead of opening the gate, which would have caused a huge sound, she prefers opening a small door in the gate that may allow passage for one or two people at a time. The castle gate was well ironed and protected. In folklore, iron is considered a bane for supernatural creatures. It is believed that iron would repel evil or otherwise ward off unwanted creatures. Geraldine fails to cross over the iron door, the little opening in the iron gate, as she feels intense pain and sinks on the ground. Christabel, who now fully trusts her, feels that Geraldine is weak and tried and helps her, lifting her up and crossing the threshold of the gate with her. Geraldine had crossed the threshold now, and she appeared rejuvenated, as if she was never in pain. So free from danger, free from fear, they crossed the court, right glad they were. And Christabel devoutly cried to the lady by her side, Praise be the Virgin, all divine, who hath rescued thee from thy distress. Alas, alas, said Geraldine, I cannot speak for weariness. So free from danger, free from fear, they crossed the court, right glad they were. It is a moment of triumph for both the girls, as they feel they are away from danger, now in safety of the castle. Christabel devotedly thanks the Virgin Mary and asks Geraldine to pray with her. But Geraldine expresses her inability to speak the prayer, as she is weary and tired. This further increases the ambiguity. She appeared just fine and rejuvenated as she crossed the moat and the iron threshold. Without Christabel's help, she could not have crossed the sacred oak, the protecting moat, and the iron threshold. Stanza 15, lines 146 to 154. Outside her kennel, the mastiff old lay fast asleep in moonshine cold. The mastiff foal did not awake, yet she an angry moan did make. And what can ail the mastiff bitch? Never till now she uttered yell beneath the eye of Christabel. Perhaps it is the owlet's screech, for what can ail the mastiff bitch? The old watch bitch, the old toothless mastiff, notices Christabel and the stranger. It does not get up, however, its angry moan indicates that something is amiss, introducing an element of tension. This behavior is unusual, hinting at an underlying disturbance. The otherwise calm mastiff now moans angrily. Christabel notices and wonders, why is the bitch disturbed? Maybe the owlet scratched the bridge, she thinks. The mastiff's sudden agitation raises questions about what had disturbed her, foreshadowing potential danger, while Christabel is totally unaware of the impending danger. Owls are often associated with omens or the supernatural, enhancing the sense of foreboding and suggesting that something unsettling is happening in the night. They pass the hall that echoes still. Pass as lightly as you will. The brands were flat, the brands were dying, amid their own white ashes lying. But when the lady passed, there came a tongue of light, a fit of flame, and Christabel saw the lady's eye, and nothing else saw she thereby, save the boss of the shield of Sir Leoline Tall, which hung in a murky old niche in the wall. "O softly tread," said Christabel, "my father seldom sleepeth well." As the girls pass through the hall, the eerie silence of the castle is noticeable. Everyone is sleeping. The fire is dying amid the white ashes, symbolizing the remnants of warmth and life, reinforcing the idea of a once vibrant place now shrouded in stillness and darkness. However, as Geraldine crosses through, a fit of flame sparks. This light could symbolize her otherworldly presence or a connection to something greater, contrasting starkly with the dying embers around them. In that light, Christabel notices her enchanting eyes, and she fails to notice anything else. The boss of the shield of Sir Leoline Tall further connects the narrative to themes of chivalry and protection. The shield tucked away in a murky old niche symbolizes both heritage and the potential for conflict, hinting at the history and safety that may be at risk. Christabel is concerned for her father as she requests Geraldine in a low voice to walk cautiously, avoiding any unnecessary sound. She mentions her unwell father is sleeping and she does not wish him to get disturbed. It suggests the responsible nature of Christabel. Sweet Christabel, her feet doth bare, and jealous of the listening air, they steal their way from stair to stair, now in glimmer and now in gloom, and now they pass the Baron's room, as still as death, with stifled breath, and now have reached her chamber door, and now doth Geraldine press down the rushes of the chamber floor. Christabel is barefoot, avoiding any unwanted noise as she moves. By being barefoot, she is physically exposed, enhancing the atmosphere of secrecy and caution as they move through the house. The line, jealous of the listening air, personifies the air, suggesting that even the atmosphere is attentive to their movements. They continue to move up the staircase towards Christabel's room, and as they pass through various doors, they face light coming through the doors. The line, now in glimmer and now in gloom, captures the contrast between light and darkness, symbolizing the blend of safety and danger. As they pass the Baron's room, they act more cautious. This heightened awareness of their surroundings intensifies the suspense, suggesting that any noise could lead to discovery. As they reach Christabel's chamber door, Geraldine pushes in, suggesting her assertiveness over Christabel and their deeper connection. Stanza 18, lines 176 to 184. The moon shines dim in the open air, and not a moonbeam enters here, but they without its light can see the chamber carved so curiously, carved with figures strange and sweet, all made out of the carver's brain for a lady's chamber meet. The lamp with two-fold silver chain is fastened to an angel's feet. The speaker describes Christabel's chamber and mentions that the moon, though full, is shadowed by clouds, and it is dim. Anyhow, no moonlight enters her room, which signifies her isolation and privacy. It is Christabel's chamber, her domain. However, the two girls can see around the room, which has been beautified and decorated by carvings. The figures, strange and sweet, reflect a blend of beauty and peculiarity, capturing the essence of the mystical world in which Christabel and Geraldine find themselves. The craftsman carved the room while considering all the needs and tastes appropriate for a lady chamber. There is a lamp fastened to an angel's feet. This imagery suggests a connection between the divine and the earthly, as if the lamp's light is blessed or protected by celestial forces. It also reinforces the theme of sanctity in what should be a private space. Stanza 19, lines 185 to 190. The silver lamp burns dead and dim, but Christabel the lamp will trim. She trimmed the lamp and made it bright, and left it swinging to and fro, while Geraldine, in wretched plight, sank down upon the floor below. The silver lamp was burning, but its light was dim, as there was no one in the room before. As Christabel trimmed the lamp, it became brighter and the room lightened up, as the lamp swung to and fro through the air. Trimming the lamp signifies her desire to bring light and clarity to the situation, both literally and metaphorically. It is Christabel's attempt to dispel the fears and uncertainties surrounding her and Geraldine. However, Geraldine suffered a negative impact. The light from the lamp fastened to the angel's feet weakened her. Her descent to the floor signifies a loss of strength and agency, contrasting sharply with Christabel's proactive nature. O weary lady, Geraldine, I pray you drink this cordial wine. It is a wine of virtuous powers. My mother made it of wild flowers. Christabel notices Geraldine's struggle against the light from the lamp. Unaware and innocent, she thinks of how weary, tired, and weak Geraldine must have been feeling and offers her a drink, a cordial wine with virtuous powers, made by her mother from the wild flowers, suggesting her mother too had an interest in mystique heathen ways. Stanza 21, lines 195 to 204. And will your mother pity me, who am a maiden most forlorn? Christabel answered, Woe is me! She died the hour that I was born. I have heard the grey-haired friar tell how on her deathbed she did say that she should hear the castle bell strike 12 upon my wedding day. O mother dear, that thou wert here, I would, said Geraldine, she were. Geraldine notices the virtuous innocence and caring nature of Christabel and further tries to overpower her by again expressing herself as the damsel in distress, a maiden most forlorn. She asks if Christabel's mother will allow her in the castle if she comes to know. It shows her desperation and vulnerability against virtue. Christabel informs that her mother died while giving birth to her. Woe is me signifies a profound sense of loss, not only personal grief but also the impact of her mother's absence on her life. The old friar told her how her mother wished to live and see Christabel grow up and get married while she was on her deathbed. Christabel expresses her longing for maternal guidance and support. Geraldine too expresses sympathy with Christabel and says she too yearns for motherly guidance, reinforcing the bond between her and Christabel. Stanza 22, lines 205 to 210. But soon with altered voice said she, Off, wandering mother, peak and pine. I have power to bid thee flee. Alas, what ails poor Geraldine? Why stares she with unsettled eye? Can she the bodiless dead espy? Geraldine shows her deception as she sympathizes with Christabel on one hand while thinking otherwise in her own mind, saying so quietly that Christabel could not understand what she was saying. The omniscient narrator could hear her though. She notices the virtuous spiritual presence of Christabel's mother and she uses her power to flee her away and thus remove the protective layer from Christabel and the castle. This shows that Geraldine has some control over the spectral realm, which raises questions about her true nature. She sees here and there with unsettled eyes. The speaker raises the question if Geraldine can converse and force the bodiless dead spirits to her cause. Stanza 23, lines 211 to 214. And why with hollow voice cries she, of woman of, this hour is mine. Though her guardian spirit be, of woman of, 'tis given to me. The hollow voice suggests a disembodied or ghostly quality of Geraldine's words. This imagery evokes a sense of eeriness. She asserts her authority over the situation, suggesting that she has a claim to the moment or space that transcends the influence of Christabel's mother. Geraldine acknowledges that the spirit is Christabel's protective guardian spirit, but she asserts that it is her hour. This assertion of power raises questions about her true nature and motivations, suggesting that she may have ulterior motives or a deeper connection to the supernatural world. Stanza 24, lines 215 to 220. Then Christabel knelt by the lady's side and raised to heaven her eyes so blue. Alas, said she, the ghastly ride, dear lady, it had wildered you. The lady wiped her moist cold brow and faintly said, 'Tis over now. Christabel hears her murmuring. Unaware of Geraldine's intentions, Christabel expresses her empathy and kneels beside her, saying that the ghastly ride, the abduction, must have weakened her and that is why she is not speaking clearly. The imagery of moist cold brow connotates fear and exhaustion. It paints a vivid picture of Geraldine's vulnerability, adding to the emotional weight of the scene. Geraldine's faint assertion, "'Tis over now," suggests a sense of relief, but it also carries an air of ambiguity. This phrase may imply that while the immediate danger has passed, underlying tensions and unresolved issues remain. Again the wildflower wine she drank, her fair large eyes 'gan glitter bright, and from the floor whereon she sank, the lofty lady stood upright. She was most beautiful to see, like a lady of a far country. Geraldine took some more of the wildflower wine, and she appeared to regaining her strength. The wildflower wine serves as a potent symbol. It suggests a connection to nature and the supernatural, hinting at the transformative and rejuvenating power of the drink. She stood up, and Christabel noticed her beautiful figure. The transformation from a sank position to a lofty lady evokes a sense of elevation and empowerment. Geraldine begins taking control of the scene. The speaker describes her otherworldliness, highlighting her enchanting and exotic beauty, which is both alluring and potentially dangerous. Stanza 26, lines 227 to 235. And thus the lofty lady spake, "All they who live in the upper sky do love you, holy Christabel, and you love them, and for their sake, and for the good which me befell, even I in my degree will try, fair maiden, to requite you well. But now unrobe yourself, for I must pray, ere yet in bed I lie." Geraldine continues to grab the dominating power and praises Christabel, saying she is pure and innocent, loved by the celestial beings. She mentions how empathetically Christabel treated her in her moment of need and promises to return the favor well. And then she commands her to unrobe herself and lay beside her in the bed as she will pray. The command carries a dual connotation. On the surface, it suggests a physical act of preparing for rest, but it may also symbolize vulnerability and trust as she prepares for a moment of intimacy and prayer. Stanza 27, lines 236 to 239. Quoth Christabel, "So let it be." And as the lady bade, did she. Her gentle limbs did she undress and lay down in her loveliness. Christabel shows her trust in Geraldine and accepts her request, surrendering herself to Geraldine's enchantment and to the mystical atmosphere surrounding them. As she undresses, her gentle limbs symbolize her physical and emotional vulnerability. She lays down in her loveliness and evokes a sense of innocence, suggesting that she is enveloped in a state of grace. Stanza 28, lines 240 to 245. But through her brain of weal and woe, so many thoughts move to and fro, that vain it were her lids to close, so halfway from the bed she rose, and on her elbow did recline, to look at the Lady Geraldine. It might be the first time Christabel was sharing her bed with someone while Geraldine did not lie down yet. Though she lay down, Christabel was unable to sleep as she kept thinking of the mysterious, enchanting presence of Geraldine. She could not close her eyes as she wished to see her again. She rose halfway from the bed, symbolizing her reluctance to fully engage in the intimacy of the moment, while also wanting to remain close to Geraldine. This physical posture reflects her emotional ambivalence and the struggle between desire and caution. By reclining on her elbow to look at Geraldine, Christabel adopts a position of both curiosity and vulnerability. Beneath the lamp, the lady bowed and slowly rolled her eyes around. Then, drawing in her breath aloud, like one that shuddered, she unbound the cincture from beneath her breast. Her silken robe and inner vest dropped at her feet, and full in view, behold, her bosom and half her side. A sight to dream of, not to tell. O shield her, O shield, sweet Christabel. The speaker describes Geraldine, who is still standing beside the couch. She bowed her head beneath the lamp to open up her robe, but she waited and rolled her eyes to ensure that Christabel was watching her. The slow movement can evoke a feeling of seduction, as if she is preparing to reveal something significant. Then she made a significant noise of her breath, as if to draw attention before revealing herself. One by one, she dropped all her clothes on the ground. Christabel was behind her, reclining on her elbow, as she could see her bosom or breasts from the side, and she was enchanted. As her silken robe and inner vest drop to her feet, the imagery becomes strikingly sensual. It is a sight to dream of, not to tell, suggests the allure and danger of the movement. What is being revealed is both enchanting and potentially perilous. The speaker makes an urgent plea to shield Christabel. It underscores the overarching theme of innocence threatened by the seductive yet potentially dangerous darkness represented by Geraldine. Christabel now knows the truth of Geraldine, which is implied perilous, dangerous, and evil. Yet Geraldine nor speaks nor stirs. Ah, what a stricken look was hers! Deep from within she seems halfway to lift some weight with stick essay, and eyes the maid and seeks delay, then suddenly, as one defied, collects herself in scorn and pride, and lay down by the maiden's side, and in her arms the maid she took, ah, well a day. Despite being revealed to Christabel, Geraldine acknowledges her control over the situation. Her silence created a haunting atmosphere. Despite her intentions, she appears reluctant as she realizes the purity and innocence of Christabel. She is caught between two states, perhaps between desire and fear, or vulnerability and strength. She attempts to look at Christabel but hesitates. Hesitation suggests a moment of contemplation. This action indicates that she is weighing her next move, highlighting the complexity of her feelings towards Christabel. She promised she would take care of sweet innocent Christabel, but her intentions appear otherwise. It appears she is in two minds, but then she takes a decision with a sense of defiance and confidence. She lays down beside Christabel, taking her in arms. She says it was a significant day. And with low voice and doleful look, these words did say, In the touch of this bosom there worketh a spell, which is Lord of thy utterance, Christabel. Thou knowest to-night, and wilt know to tomorrow, this mark of my shame, this seal of my sorrow. But vainly thou warest, for this is alone in thy power to declare. After taking Christabel in her arms, Geraldine reveals why Christabel is so meek in her presence. She says that as Christabel comes in contact with her breasts, a spell works upon her, taking away her autonomy. The spell, and hence Geraldine herself, is now the Lord of thy utterance, Christabel. Geraldine's magic controls or influences Christabel's ability to speak. Geraldine acquired control over the relationship, and the power dynamics suggest manipulation that Christabel's voice, her agency, is compromised. Now Christabel is bound to say only that which pleases Geraldine or favors her. This spell is necessary because Christabel has seen Geraldine in her nakedness, in her full bloom, in her true self. She is something that should not be in the castle. She is something that had been stopped and barricaded by the sacred oak. She could not cross the moat. She had no power to surpass the iron gate's threshold. The mastiff would not have allowed her to overshadow the castle. But now she is here with the help of Christabel. Geraldine controls Christabel's words because she now knows the truth about Geraldine and will know much more by the morning. Being aware of her truth, Christabel holds the power to reveal Geraldine's truth in front of everyone else and thus Geraldine circumvents her power by the spell. Stanza 30, lines 275 to 279. That in the dim forest thou heardest a low moaning, and foundst a bright lady surpassingly fair, and didst bring her home with thee in love and in charity, to shield her and shelter her from the damp air. Geraldine's spell bounds Christabel to reveal only this about Geraldine, that when she was alone in the dim, dark forest, she heard low sorrowful moaning and found a bright lady of enigmatic ethereal beauty. Geraldine's beauty juxtaposed with her low moaning signifies the duality of appearances. She brought her home because she was enchanted by her and wished to help her against the damp air of the cold night. Christabel is not even allowed to say anything about the 5 warriors who brought Geraldine on a white palfrey. Geraldine will herself tell her story to the Baron and others whom she will encounter in the morning, and Christabel can do nothing else but affirm her story, despite knowing the truth of Geraldine. The first part of Christabel ends with these lines. He wrote a conclusion to part 1 and then began writing part 2. The conclusion to part 1, stanza 1, lines 1 to 13. It was a lovely sight to see the Lady Christabel when she was praying at the old oak tree. The opening line sets a tone of admiration. The speaker uses lovely to emphasize the aesthetic and emotional appeal of Christabel's decision to go out in the dark and pray at the old oak tree for the safety of her fiancé. Oaks are often seen as sacred in various cultures, enhancing the spiritual atmosphere. Amid the jagged shadows of mossy leafless boughs, kneeling in the moonlight to make her gentle vows. The imagery of jagged shadows and mossy leafless boughs creates a contrast between the beauty of Christabel and the dark, eerie surroundings. This juxtaposition heightens the sense of mystery and foreshadows potential danger lurking in the shadows. Christabel's act of kneeling signifies humility and devotion. The moonlight serves as a source of illumination, symbolizing clarity and enlightenment. Her slender palms together pressed, heaving sometimes on her breast. The description of her slender palms and the act of pressing them together conveys a sense of delicacy and grace. The heaving indicates that she is emotionally invested in her prayer, possibly reflecting her inner turmoil or longing. Her face resigned to bliss or bale, her face, oh, call it fair, not pale. And both blue eyes, more bright than clear, each about to have a tear. Bliss or bale, Christabel is open to whatever outcomes may come, joy or sorrow. This acceptance reveals her strength and vulnerability, illustrating a profound emotional depth. Stanza 2, lines 14 to 23. With open eyes, ah, woe is me, asleep and dreaming fearfully, fearfully dreaming, yet I wis, dreaming that alone which is. O sorrow and shame, can this be she, the lady who knelt at the old oak tree? And lo, the worker of these harms that holds the maiden in her arms, seems to slumber still and mild as a mother with her child. The speaker contemplates the situation, ah, woe is me, indicates his distress and despair. This juxtaposition creates a sense of helplessness as the speaker feels trapped in the painful reality. Christabel is sleeping beside Geraldine. He wonders if she is the same pious devout lady who knelt and prayed at the old oak tree. The speaker is grappling with feelings of sorrow and shame regarding the identity of the lady. There is a sense of disbelief or confusion about how the pure, innocent Christabel praying at the oak tree could be associated with the current distress she is with the worker of these harms. She is in the embrace of Geraldine, and they are sleeping as a mother with her child. Geraldine is now perceived as a source of danger or distress, and she is in control of sweet innocent Christabel under her spell. Stanza 3, lines 24 to 32. A star hath set, a star hath risen, O Geraldine, since arms of thine have been the lovely lady's prison. O Geraldine, 1 hour was thine, thou'st had thy will by Tyne and Rill. The night birds all that hour was still, but now they are jubilant anew. From cliff and tower, too-hoo, 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 from wood and fell. Christabel was under the protection of her mother's spirit, but Geraldine overpowered her mother's spirit and made her flee. Now she controls Christabel. She holds Christabel in her sensuous, seductive arms, which are no less than a prison to the innocent sweet Christabel. Geraldine had an hour of hers in which she overpowered and forced Christabel's guardian spirit to flee away. Everything was still at that hour. No night bird made any noise, and the lake and the streams were quiet as if frozen. But now, when the hour is over, the night birds, the ominous owls, are jubilant, signifying the victory of evil Geraldine over pious, lovely Christabel. The ominous owls are singing songs of the victory from cliffs and towers, woods and mountains. Stanza 4, lines 33 to 40. And see, the Lady Christabel gathers herself from out her trance. Her limbs relax, her countenance grows sad and soft. The smooth thin lids close over her eyes, and tears she sheds, large tears that leave the lashes bright. And oft the while she seems to smile as infants at a sudden light. The speaker describes Christabel as she wakes up. She is aware of what happened. She knows fully well the true nature of Geraldine now, but she is under her spell. Her awareness brings sorrow to her as her eyes feel the heaviness of tears, but the spell makes her appear smile. The bright lashes suggest that even in her sorrow there is an element of purity and light, reinforcing the complexity of her emotions. The paradox of smiling amidst tears suggests a nuanced emotional state. It reflects a flicker of hope or joy, perhaps amid her pain, akin to the joy seen in infants at a sudden light. Infants also signify helplessness and dependence. The spell made her dependent, and she has lost control over herself to Geraldine. Stanza 5, lines 41 to 54. Yea, she doth smile, and she doth weep, like a youthful hermitess, beauteous in her wilderness, who, praying always, prays in the sleep. And if she move unquietly, perchance, 'tis but the blood so free, comes back and tingles in her feet. No doubt, she hath a vision sweet. What if her guardian spirit were? What if she knew her mother near? But this she knows, in joys and woes, that saints will aid if men will call, for the blue sky bends over all. The juxtaposition of smiling and weeping captures the duality of Christabel's emotional state. The comparison to a youthful hermitess evokes an image of purity, suggesting that Christabel's journey is both introspective and solitary. She knows the reality, the impending danger that Geraldine signifies, but she has no control over herself. She cannot speak of Geraldine's secret that only she knows, but she can pray, and she prays always, even in her sleep. The stanza describes Christabel's helplessness against the spell. She wonders if her mother's spirit could help her out. She is helpless, but she has faith, and she knows that if she prays for good, her call for help won't go unheard. The belief in a guardian spirit and the presence of saints reflects a sense of hope and protection. It conveys the idea that love and support exist even in times of struggle. Coleridge concluded the first part on this hopeful note. Christabel, Part 2. Geraldine is a central character in this narrative poem. She is an enigmatic female figure who embodies temptation and darkness. Her character challenges traditional gender roles and highlights the complexities of female power. Part 2 introduces Sir Leoline, the rich baron. He is the father of Christabel. He is an old, strong nobleman and a protective father who cares deeply for Christabel's well-being. His paternal instincts drive much of his behavior, particularly regarding Christabel's safety. Despite his strength, Sir Leoline is susceptible to influence, especially from Geraldine. His willingness to believe Geraldine's fabricated story showcases his naivety and highlights the theme of vulnerability in men. He experiences a conflict between his love for Christabel and his attraction to Geraldine. This internal struggle illustrates the tension between duty and desire, emphasizing the poem's exploration of moral ambiguity. Sir Leoline's susceptibility to Geraldine's charms suggests that even the strongest figures can be compromised, adding depth to the theme of manipulation. Stanza 1, lines 1 to 6. Each matin bell, the Baron saith, knells us back to a world of death. These words Sir Leoline first said when he rose and found his lady dead. These words Sir Leoline will say many a morn to his dying day. The matin bell refers to the morning bell, traditionally rung to call for morning prayers. It symbolizes the beginning of a new day, yet here it carries a heavy association with mourning. The word knells evokes the sound of a funeral bell, indicating sorrow and the finality of death. It conveys the idea that the ringing of the bell serves as a reminder of mortality and the inevitability of loss. The mention of Sir Leoline personalizes the grief. His words are not just a reflection of sorrow but a testament to his enduring pain. The abrupt transition from waking to discovering his lady's death underscores the trauma and shock of loss. The repetition of his words suggests a cycle of grief that will haunt him indefinitely. It implies that his sorrow will be ever present, a burden he must carry each morning. The phrase "to his dying day" emphasizes the permanence of his grief and the lasting impact of this loss on his life. And hence the custom and law began, that still at dawn the sacristan, who duly pulls the heavy bell, 45 beats must tell, between each stroke a warning knell, which not a soul can choose but hear from Bratha Head to Vandermeer. Since the Baron is mourning, it becomes a custom and law that the sacristan pulling the bell will tell a warning knell between each movement of the chain of 540 beats. Sacristan is another word for the sexton, the man who takes care of the church, rings the bells, and sometimes even serves as the grave digger. 45 beats suggests the structured approach to mourning, where each beat represents a moment of contemplation. This custom reflects Sir Leoline's profound impact on his community, extending his personal sorrow into a collective experience. It highlights how his grief shapes not only his identity but also the cultural practices surrounding death and remembrance. This custom also suggests the interconnectedness of human experience. Because of the sorrow of the Baron, mourning each morning becomes a law for everyone from Bartha Head to Vandermeer. Not a soul can escape from the sound of the bell. It implies that the pain of loss is a shared experience. It signifies the tyranny of feudalism. The morning bell is turned to a mourning bell. Since the Baron is sulked or sad, melancholy is the norm for all. Bartha Head and Vandermeer are real places in a region of England then called the Lake Country. Coleridge, Wordsworth, and Robert Southey were the primary lake poets. Saith Bracy, the bard, so let it knell, and let the drowsy sacristan still count as slowly as he can. There is no lack of such, I ween, as well fill up the space between. In Langdale Pike and Witch's Lair and Dungeon Ghail so fully rent, with ropes of rock and bells of air. The speaker introduces Bracy, the bard of Sir Leoline. The command, let it knell, signifies an acceptance of the new law, the regular mourning process. The church bell is used for celebrations and social gatherings, but now every knell of the bell is a reminder of grief, death, and loss. The sacristan is described as drowsy, which may reflect a sense of weariness or resignation and suggests the toll of grief and monotonic melancholy on individuals. The Baron's mourning has been forced upon everyone to suffer. The bard acknowledges that there is no dearth of such people who have suffered their own loss and they mourn. Langdale Pike and Witch's Lair suggest a mystical or haunted quality linking the landscape to the supernatural. The metaphor ropes of rock and bells of air suggests the solidarity and permanence of melancholy throughout the area. Stanza 3, lines 22 to 28. Three sinful sextons, ghosts are pent, who all give back one after another the death note to their living brother, and of two by the knell offended. Just as their 1, 2, 3 is ended, the devil mocks the doleful tale with a merry peal from Borrowdale. The imagery of three sinful sextons' ghosts suggests a sense of confinement or punishment for their earthly deeds. Sinful indicates that their actions in life were questionable, and now, in death, they are bound to a consequence. The tales of these sinful, probably criminal sextons are a lesson for their living brothers, the people of the castle. Yet, the knell of the mourning bell often offends the three ghosts because while their tales were the prime reminder of the inevitability of death, the bell's knell has now taken the role. The idea of being offended by the knell speaks the discomfort that the sound of the bell brings, perhaps signaling regret or sorrow. It highlights the emotional weight that accompanies the rituals of mourning. But that has been the law of the land, and no one can escape it. The contrast between the mournful knell and the devil's mockery represents the dual nature of existence. The devil often brings merry peal in the castle of mourning to mock the sorrow of the rich baron. Life continues even in the face of death, and there are moments of levity amidst sorrow. The air is still through mist and cloud, that merry peal comes ringing loud, and Geraldine shakes off her dread and rises lightly from the bed, puts on her silken vestments white, and tricks her hair in lovely plight. And nothing doubting of her spell, awakens the Lady Christabel. Sleep you, sweet Lady Christabel, I trust that you have rested well. After describing Sir Leoline and the general mood of the castle, the speaker notices the change that the arrival of Geraldine has brought. She wakes up in the morning while the air is still and the sun is hidden in the mist and clouds. The bell tolls, but the knell appears merry peal rather than the melancholic warning. Geraldine rises up, braids her hair, and prepares for the morning. Braiding is important because it reminds she is an unmarried woman. Only married women wore their hair loose in public in the Middle Ages. She gently awakens Christabel, sleeping beside her. The morning bells instill a bit of fear in Geraldine, but she soon gains confidence. Geraldine knows that she fully controls the situation and she has nothing to fear. Her confidence in her spell hints at her possible supernatural nature. Geraldine's inquiry shows a sense of care and concern, yet it can be also be interpreted as a manipulative gesture, given the context of the poem. This duality adds complexity to their relationship. The last night she corrupted the innocent devout Christabel through her spell. Stanza 5, lines 39 to 51. And Christabel awoke and spied the same who lay down by her side, or rather say, the same whom she raised up beneath the old oak tree. Nay, fairer yet, and yet more fair, for she belike hath drunken deep of all the blessedness of sleep. And while she spake, her looks, her air, such gentle thankfulness declare, that so it seemed her gilded vests grew tight beneath her heaving breasts. Sure I have sinned, said Christabel, now heaven be praised if all be well. The act of awakening signifies a transition from unconsciousness to consciousness, both physically and metaphorically. Christabel wakes up and notices Geraldine, who appears fairer and more impressive than how she appeared under the oak tree. Geraldine's demeanor exudes a sense of gratitude and warmth, indicating her appreciation for Christabel. She appears more accentuated and seductive, suggesting a physical manifestation of her beauty and vitality. She thinks that the night's rest has rejuvenated Geraldine. Geraldine's girded vests appeared tight as if her breasts were heaving or swelling up. Christabel feels the feeble seduction again and immediately is hit with the feeling that she has sinned. Because of the magic spell, she does not exactly remember what actually happened, yet she has a feeling that she committed some sin and prays not to face any ill consequences of the wrong she has already committed in her sleep. Stanza 6, lines 52 to 55. And in low faltering tones, yet sweet, did she the lofty lady greet, with such perplexity of mind as dreams too lively leave behind. Christabel could feel the burden of what she did the last night, and she believed it was a sin. From a virgin, devoted, loyal, innocent girl, betrothed to her fiancé, she now knows much more than an innocent girl. While she could not recognize the evil predatory nature of Geraldine, her mind was disturbed by her own implicitness in the sin. She greeted Geraldine in a low, faltering tone, further suggesting her submissive role to her. Christabel is experiencing a mix of emotions, combining both tenderness and uncertainty. So quickly she rose and quickly arrayed her maiden limbs, and having prayed that he who on the cross did groan might wash away her sins unknown, she forthwith led fair Geraldine to meet her sire Sir Leoline. Christabel soon left the bed, and the very first thing she did was to pray and ask for forgiveness for what she did. Her prayer was so earnest and innocent that the speaker alludes to Christ on the cross, who appears to sigh and wash away her sins or redeems her. Then Christabel, as a responsible and dutiful daughter of her father, led Geraldine to meet the Baron. The lovely maid and the lady tall are pacing both into the hall, and pacing on through page and groom, enter the Baron's presence room. The speaker describes the two girls as they move toward the Baron's room or hall. He describes Christabel as lovely, signifying her innocent, dutiful, and earnest essence. Geraldine, on the other hand, is described as the lady tall, suggesting her regal, commanding, and domineering figure and position. The boys and men of all classes, page and groom, observe them in awe as they enter the Baron's hall. Stanza 9, lines 66 to 71. The Baron rose, and while he pressed his gentle daughter to his breast, with cheerful wonder in his eyes, the Lady Geraldine espies, and gave such welcome to the same as might beseem so bright a dame. As the Baron saw her daughter approaching, he cheerfully left his seat and rose to greet her. He took her in his arms with fatherly love. However, he was amazed by the presence of the other girl, Geraldine, and noticed her with interest too. He welcomed her and took her to his chest too. The phrase might beseem implies that the Baron's reaction is fitting for someone of Geraldine's stature, suggesting her nobility and allure. However, it also marks Geraldine's entrance into the Baron's world. This moment is critical as it establishes her position within the family. But when he heard the lady's tale, and when she told her father's name, why waxed Sir Leoline so pale, murmuring over the name again? Lord Roland, de Vaux of Trimerian. Alas, they had been friends in youth. But whispering tongues can poison truth, and constancy lives in realms above, and life is thorny, and youth is vain, and to be worth with one we love. Geraldine repeated the same story that she had told to Christabel. When Geraldine talked about her father, the Baron was unsettled. He asked again if Geraldine's father was Lord Roland. The speaker informs that Sir Leoline and Lord Roland were close friends in their youth, but rumors or falsehoods have tarnished their relationship. The speaker suggests the ephemeral nature of the human world and changing relationships, mentioning that true loyalty and commitment are rare and perhaps unattainable in the mortal realm. Doth work like madness in the brain, and thus it chanced, as I divine, with Roland and Sir Leoline. Each spake words of high disdain and insult to his heart's best brother. They parted never to meet again, but never either found another. To free the hollow heart from paining, they stood aloof, the scars remaining, like cliffs which had been rent asunder. The speaker further reveals the relationship between Sir Leoline and Lord Roland during their youthful days. Because of misunderstanding, rumor, lack of trust, and feelings of betrayal, the two close friends had some heated arguments. They insulted each other to such an extent, and from that moment to now, they have never met again. However, none of them have yet come over to the loss they have felt while losing a close friend, as close as a brother. The hollow heart symbolizes an emotional void left by the absence of their friendship. It conveys the idea that true bonds are irreplaceable. A dreary sea now flows between, but neither heat, nor frost, nor thunder shall wholly do away, I ween, the marks of that which once hath been. The speaker mentions that Sir Leoline and Lord Roland are aloof, like two cliffs far away from each other. A huge roaring sea is in between them, yet both of them feel the mark they have left on each other's hearts. The imagery of scars serves as a metaphor for the lasting effects of emotional pain, illustrating how past grievances can linger and shape future relationships. Stanza 11, lines 96 to 99. Sir Leoline, a moment's space, stood gazing on the damsel's face, and the youthful lord of Triermain came back upon his heart again. Geraldine does not need to be telling any truth. Her own personality is enigmatic, enchanting, and menacing, and she already has impressed Sir Leoline with her presence. However, mentioning Lord Roland's name as her father has increased her strength and impression many-folds. As the Baron sees her, he remembers his old friend. The act of gazing and reflecting on Geraldine's face ties the present to the past, illustrating how memories can influence current emotions and decisions. Sir Leoline's thoughts about Lord Roland reveal the lasting impact of past relationships. Oh, then, the Baron forgot his age. His noble heart swelled high with rage. He swore by the wounds in Yeshu's side he would proclaim it far and wide, with trump and solemn heraldry, that they who thus had wronged the dame were base as spotted infamy, and if they dare deny the same, Sir Leoline has been presented as a strong chivalrous and loyal widowed husband and father. Geraldine's story, which could have been false and deceptive, moves him. He vows that he will do everything possible to track down the man who disrespected Geraldine and abducted her. Geraldine succeeds in establishing herself as the dame in distress. Sir Leoline's outrage stems from the desire to defend Geraldine's honor, which he perceives as a reflection of his own values. The old and ill Baron of Part 1 shows his race now as a young chivalrous knight, suggesting the ominous effects of Geraldine and her heaving breasts. Stanza 12, lines 107 to 115. My herald shall appoint a week, and let the recreant traitors seek my tourney court, that there are then I may dislodge their reptile souls from the bodies and forms of men. He spake, his eye in lightning rolls, for the lady was ruthlessly seized, and he kenned in the beautiful lady the child of his friend. Sir Leoline declares that he will send trumpets and heralds in all directions, and that the 5 warriors who abducted Geraldine are terrible criminals and will be punished as such. If these criminals deny the charges, his herald will offer them a week to justify themselves and face his tourney court, suggesting a martial or competitive setting, duel, where honor can be defended through combat. He declares that he will be glad to dislodge their reptilian souls from the bodies and form of men, suggesting that he sees the offenders not as honorable men, but as lesser beings unworthy of their forms. This rage appears genuine as he sees his old friend's daughter in Geraldine. Stanza 13, lines 116 to 125. And now the tears were on his face, and fondly in his arms he took fair Geraldine, who met the embrace, prolonging it with joyous look, which when she viewed a vision fell upon the soul of Christabel. The vision of fear, the touch and pain, she shrunk and shuddered and saw again. Ah, woe is me! Was it for thee, thou gentle maid, such sights to see? Geraldine is having her effects as Sir Leoline, the sombre, thoughtful man, suddenly feels a rush of emotions and begins crying as he hugs the damsel in distress. Geraldine wilfully goes in his embrace and jubilantly prolongs it, working up her charming spell again. Christabel sees all this, and suddenly she had visions of the past night, though they were not clear but foreboding. She remembers Geraldine in her bed, but in the vision, Geraldine is no longer young and beautiful. Christabel saw Geraldine's true self in her bed. She remembers how fearful she was and how intensely painful the experience was. Christabel shudders at the thought and looks at Geraldine again and wonders with pain, ah, woe is me, the noble gentle maid, were you that dreadful ominous creature that I saw on my bed? She gasps in fear and looks up in heaven for guidance. Stanza 14, lines 126 to 131. Again she saw that bosom old, again she felt that bosom cold, and drew in her breath with a hissing sound, whereat the knight turned wildly round, and nothing saw but his own sweet maid, with eyes upraised as one that prayed. She sees Geraldine in her father's embrace, and the memories from the past become clear. She clearly remembers the dreadful breasts of Geraldine, who could be an old ominous witch. She felt the touch of her bosom and remembers how deadly, how cold it was, as if she was a vampire, a half-dead zombie. Geraldine suddenly sees a frightening vision fall upon Christabel's soul. Geraldine shrinks, shudders, and breathes heavily, producing a hissing sound. This startles Sir Leoline, and he turns to check what happened. He finds nothing ill at his back, but sees Christabel, his sweet daughter, staring at the sky as if she is praying to the Lord. The touch, the sight had passed away, and in its stead that vision blessed, which comforted her after rest, while in the lady's arms she lay, had put a rapture in her breast, and on her lips and over her eyes spread smiles like light. Geraldine immediately recovers and regains her control, and shifts the dark memories of Christabel to pleasant sinful feelings she instilled in her mind the previous night. The spell had made Christabel forget about the painful experience and dreadful reality of being with Geraldine in the same bed, and shifted it with a sensuous, pleasant feeling that appeared sinful to her, but stilled a smile of pleasure on her face. Stanza 16, lines 139 to 144. With new surprise, "What ails then my beloved child?" the Baron said. His daughter mild made answer, "All will yet be well, I ween." She had no power to tell aught else, so mighty was the spell. Sir Leoline observes Christabel and asks Christabel what is wrong, but she is unable to answer because of that pesky spell in Geraldine's bosom. She answers, "All will yet be well." The omniscient narrator himself does not exactly know what happened, as he uses the word "ween" to suggest that he is not sure if Christabel is too ashamed to tell, no power to tell, or if she is answering pleasantly because of the effects of Geraldine's spell. Stanza 17, lines 145 to 152. Yet he who saw this Geraldine had deemed her sure a thing divine. Such sorrow with such grace she blended, as if she feared she had offended sweet Christabel, that gentle maid, and with such lowly tones she prayed she might be sent without delay home to her father's mansion. Meanwhile, Sir Leoline is under the mesmerizing effects of Geraldine, the damsel in distress. He believes Geraldine is innocent and divine, to whom the 5 warriors have done a great wrong. Christabel realizes that her father is in control of that otherworldly thing. Geraldine reacts to control the situation and pretends as if she might have offended sweet Christabel by being so close to her father. She requests in a low voice that she might be sent to her father's mansion as soon as possible. Stanza 17, lines 153 to 163. "Nay, nay, by my soul," said Leoline, "Ho, Bracy, the bard, the charge be thine. Go thou with sweet music and loud, and take 2 steeds with trappings proud, and take the youth whom thou lovest best, to bear thy harp and learn thy song, and clothe you both in solemn vest, and over the mountains haste along, lest wandering folk that are abroad detain you on the valley road." Sir Leoline is in no mood to hurry about it. He rather have another plan. He decides that this is a really good excuse to offer his old friend Lord Roland an olive branch and mend their relationship. He wishes to keep Geraldine for now in his own castle. He calls his trusted bard Bracy and tells him to pick his best horses and his best apprentice and deck them all out like a circus parade. Leoline wants them to look their best and move as swiftly as possible to Roland's castle, composing a song along the way. And when he has crossed the Irthing flood, "My merry bard, he hastes, up Knorren moor, to Hageleth wood, and reaches soon that castle good, which stands and threatens Scotland's wastes." In these lines, the Baron gives the direction of Lord Roland's castle to Bracy, suggesting that he is familiar with the route as if he visited Roland's land many times in the past, hence affirming his old friendship with him. He mentions many real places in England and says that Roland's castle is on the border of Scotland. Stanza 19, lines 169 to 176. Bard Bracy, your horses are fleet, you must ride up hall, your music so sweet, more loud than your horses' echoing feet, and loud to Lord Roland call. Thy daughter is safe in Langdale Hall. Thy beautiful daughter is safe and free, Sir Leoline greets thee, thus through me. He bids thee come without delay. Sir Leoline expects the bard to race to Lord Roland's castle and sing loudly and jubilantly that Geraldine is safe and sound with Sir Leoline. He also wants Bracy to pass along Leoline's wishes to make this situation into a happy reunion of the two old friends. He asks Bracy to invite Lord Roland to Longdale Hall, where his daughter is eagerly waiting for him with Sir Leoline. With all thy numerous array, and take thy lovely daughter home, and he will meet thee on the way with all his numerous array, white with their panting palfreys foam. And by mine honour I will say that I repent me of the day when I spake words of fierce disdain to Roland de Vaux of Triermain. For since that evil hour hath flown, many a summer's sun hath shone, yet never found I a friend again, like Roland de Vaux of Triermain. Sir Leoline plans to make use of the situation to make amends for the mistakes of the two friends have committed in their youth. He asks Bracy to invite Lord Roland with all his knights and supporters to come to Langdale Hall to receive his beloved daughter, and Sir Leoline himself with all his respected courtesans will greet them on the way, and will ask forgiveness for the ill words he ever used in the past. He also charges Bracy with delivering Sir Leoline's apology to Lord Roland to resolve their differences. The lady fell and clasped his knees, her face upraised, her eyes overflowing, and Bracy replied with faltering voice, his gracious hail on all bestowing, Thy words, thou sir of Christabel, are sweeter than my harp can tell, yet might I gain a boon of thee, this day my journey should not be. So strange a dream hath come to me. Geraldine pretends to be overwhelmed with emotions and falls to Sir Leoline's feet and thanks him. The imagery of her upturned face and overflowing eyes conveys deep emotions. Bracy the bard realizes the situation. He understands the urgency of the matter at hand and the emotional inclination of Sir Leoline attached to it. However, he has his own apprehensions, and it appears as if he too noticed the hissing sound that Geraldine produced to subdue the truthful visions of Christabel. With a faltering voice, he praises Sir Leoline's emotional monologue for his estranged friend, and says that his words are more powerful and heart-touching than the music his instrument can produce. Yet he asks for forgiveness and suggests that he should not begin his journey to Lord Roland's land on the very same day. He asks for a boon or favour of forgiveness for daring to alter Sir Leoline's command, and the reason he offers for this delay in his journey towards Sir Roland's castle is a strange dream that he had the last night. The dream concerns the Baron's beloved daughter. That I had vowed with music loud to clear yon wood from thing unblessed, warned by a vision in my rest. For in my sleep I saw that dove, that gentle bird whom thou dost love, and callest by thy own daughter's name, Sir Leoline, I saw the same, fluttering and uttering fearful moan among the green herbs in the forest alone, which when I saw and when I heard, I wondered what might ail the bird. For nothing near it could I see, save the grass and green herbs underneath the old tree. Bracy conveys his dream, which according to him is an ominous warning that must be eradicated without delay. He believes that there is an unblessed, ominous, evil, foreboding thing in the woods nearby, and he has vowed with music loud to find out and end that unknown yet dangerous thing. For a bard or musician, vowing with music is a pretty serious thing, considering his whole life depends on it. He further reveals that in his dream he saw an ailing bird named Christabel. The bird appeared frightened and trying to hide away from the potential danger in the green forest. Bracy heard the fearful cries of the bird and looked towards the tree where the bird perched underneath an old tree. However, he was unable to see any potential danger. The tree Bracy mentions is the same old tree where Christabel found Geraldine. And in my dream, methought I went to search out what might there be found, and what the sweet bird's trouble meant that thus lay fluttering on the ground. I went and peered and could descry no cause for her distressful cry. But yet, for her dear lady's sake, I stooped, methought, the dove to take. When lo, I saw a bright green snake coiled around its wings and neck. Yet the bird was crying desperately, so Bracy decided to go near the old tree and look closely. He was yet unable to point out the lurking danger. He decided to stoop down and look clearly, and then he was surprised and frightened by the sight. A large, bright green snake had captured the dove and coiled around its wings and neck, trying to devour it. Stanza 20, lines 223 to 231. Green as the herbs on which it couched, close by the dove's its head it crouched, and with the dove it heaves and stirs, swelling its neck as she swelled hers. I woke, it was the midnight hour, the clock was echoing in the tower. But through my slumber was gone by, this dream it would not pass away. It seems to live upon my eye. The lethal snake crouched on the dove's head, and it was dark green, like the moss and mistletoe, and hence was difficult to be seen. The snake was trying to devour the bird by swallowing its neck. However, the dove was resisting by swallowing its own head. Before the bard could see anything more or could do to avoid it, the bells from the tower broke his sleep. He was unable to sleep again as the dream continued to frighten him, and he got too worried about Christabel, the dove, and sweet daughter of Sir Leoline. Stanza 21, lines 232 to 235. And thence I vowed this self-same day, with music strong and saintly song, to wander through the forest bare, lest aught unholy loiter there. The bard further says that he was so worried by his dream that he vowed that he would go and search the woods to find out what unholy danger lurks there. Thus Bracy said, the Baron the while, half listening heard him with a smile, then turned to Lady Geraldine, his eyes made up of wonder and love, and said in courtly accents fine, Sweet maid, Lord Roland's beauteous dove, with arms more strong than harp or song, thy sire, and I will crush the snake. He kissed her forehead as he spoke, and Geraldine is in maiden wise, casting down her large bright eyes, with blushing cheek and courtesy fine. The Baron was not too attentive towards the bard, and he failed to ascertain the true danger lurking on his daughter and estate. He smiles and ignores what he has been told about the dove in the dream representing Christabel. He rather believes that the dove in the bard's dream represents Geraldine, and the green snake represents those 5 warriors who abducted her and left her under the oak tree. He turns to Geraldine and addresses her as Lord Roland's beauteous dove. He claims that the bard may not be able to face the green snake with his harp and song, but he and Lord Roland will ascertain to crush the head of the snake. Geraldine, who actually represents the green snake, casts her eyes down and pretends to show courtesy with her blushing cheek. She turned her from Sir Leoline, softly gathering up her train. That over her right arm fell again, and folded her arms across her chest, and couched her head upon her breast, and looked askance at Christabel. Jesu Maria, shield her well. Geraldine bows her head down, as if in courtesy towards Sir Leoline, and gazes at her heaving breasts, and then she turns her gaze towards Christabel. Realizing that the bard's dream may alert Sir Leoline towards Christabel, she decides to use her spell again. The speaker prays for the protection of Christabel. Stanza 23, lines 2 to 55 to 268. A snake's small eye blinks dull and shy, and the lady's eyes they shrunk in her head, each shrunk up to a serpent's eye, and with somewhat of malice and more of dread, at Christabel she looked askance. One moment and the sight was fled, but Christabel in dizzy trance, stumbling on the unsteady ground, shuddered aloud with a hissing sound, and Geraldine again turned round, and like a thing that sought relief, full of wonder and full of grief, she rolled her large bright eyes divine wildly on Sir Leoline. As Geraldine looked at Christabel, her eyes shrunk and changed as if they were a serpent's eyes. For a moment, Christabel could see that Geraldine was the serpent, the lurking danger trying to devour her. However, she is not the only target of Geraldine. She looked at Christabel with a sense of jealousy and disapproval for a moment. Christabel was astonished. She felt dizzy, stumbled on the ground, and made a hissing sound. Geraldine then turned towards Sir Leoline, and her eyes and attitude again changed. She rolled her eyes, which appeared so huge and bright as if filled with emotions, and looked wildly at Sir Leoline. Her intentions appear clear, as if she is seducing Sir Leoline, who is already so impressed with her beauty and presence, and the prospects of a possible amend with his estranged friend, that he appears an easy prey. While Sir Leoline believes that Geraldine represents the dove, Geraldine prepares to make him see Christabel as the lurking danger. The maid, alas, her thoughts are gone. She nothing sees, no sight but one. The maid, devoid of guile and sin, I know not how, in fearful vice, so deeply she had drunken in, that look, those shrunken serpent eyes, that all her features were resigned to this sole image in her mind, and passively did imitate that look of dull and treacherous hate, and thus she stood in dizzy trance, still picturing that look askance, with forced unconscious sympathy full before her father's view, as far as such a look could be in eyes so innocent and blue. Christabel feels the effect of Geraldine's spell again, encroaching on her, but her innocence and truthfulness somehow try to defend her. She comes back to her senses, however, she just cannot forget the image of the serpent that he saw in Geraldine's eyes. Yet the spell forces her to remain unconsciously sympathetic towards Geraldine, whom she knows is a danger to her, her father, and the whole estate. She innocently, with urging eyes, looks at her father. Stanza 25, lines 285 to 292. And when the trance was over, the maid paused a while, and inly prayed. Then falling at the baron's feet, by my mother's soul do I entreat, that though this woman send away, she said, and more she could not say, for what she knew she could not tell, overmastered by the mighty spell. As soon as Christabel got away from the serpentine effect of Geraldine's spell, she devotedly prayed and then fell upon her father's feet, begging to send Geraldine away as soon as possible. She begs him on her mother's soul to send Geraldine away, but Sir Leoline finds himself confused. He not only wishes to use Geraldine as a means to amend his broken ties with Lord Roland, but he also is under the seductive effect of Geraldine's presence. Christabel begins to see Geraldine's true form, that of Snake, in Bard Bracy's dream, more and more clearly, but she still cannot speak about it. Christabel tried to make him aware of the lurking danger, but she could tell no more because of the strong spell she was under. Stanza 26, lines 293 to 307. Why is thy cheek so wan and wild, Sir Leoline? Thy only child lies at thy feet, thy joy, thy pride, so fair, so innocent, so mild, the same for whom thy lady died. Oh, by the pangs of her dear mother, think thou no evil for thy child, for her and thee, and for no other. She prayed the moment ere she died, prayed that the babe for whom she died might prove her dear lord's joy and pride. That prayer her deadly pangs beguiled. Sir Leoline, and wouldst thou wrong thy only child, her child and thine? The Bard Bracy notices what is happening. He observes the confusion in Baron's eyes and realizes that the Baron may favor Geraldine over Christabel. He bravely decides to intervene and pleads to Sir Leoline not to be angry with Christabel. He reminds him how Sir Leoline's late wife, in memory of whom Sir Leoline still forces the church bells to remain mourning bells, prayed and begged him to take good care of Christabel and never let any wrong happen to her. Within the Baron's heart and brain, if thoughts like these had any share, they only swelled his rage and pain, and did but work confusion there. His heart was cleft with pain and rage, his cheeks they quivered, his eyes were wild, dishonored thus in his old age, dishonored by his only child, and all his hospitality to the wronged daughter of his friend. The Baron appears in a different mood though. He appears to forget his love for his dead wife and their beloved daughter. He appears to forget his duty towards her only daughter and his estate. What he could think of is the damsel in distress and his long-lost estranged friend, her father. Moreover, he is already angry at the Bard for ignoring his command to go to Sir Roland's land. He believes that Christabel and the Bard have dishonored him. He believes that his daughter is being inhospitable to Geraldine, his friend's daughter, who has been wronged by those 5 treacherous men. And while thinking about all this, his eyes go wild with rage. By more than woman's jealousy, brought thus to a disgraceful end, he rolled his eye with stern regard upon the gentle minstrel bard, and said in tones abrupt, austere, Why, Bracy, dost thou loiter here? I bade thee hence. The bard obeyed, and turning from his own sweet maid, the aged knight, Sir Leoline, led forth the lady Geraldine. Sir Leoline feels that Christabel is jealous of Geraldine because he is so attentive towards her, and this enraged him further. He commands the bard to take a leave, and then he leaves Christabel on the floor, ignoring her requests. He takes Lady Geraldine in his arms and leads her to his chamber. Part 2 of Christabel ends here on this rather pessimist note, which suggests that evil has overpowered goodness and innocence. The green serpent is continuing to widen her mouth and devour the very existence of Christabel, the dove, and much more. Christabel, enhanced goodness, appears on her knees, begging for her father's help, but is overlooked. Coleridge added a conclusion to the second part. The conclusion to part 2. Stanza 1, lines 1 to 22. A little child, a limber elf, singing, dancing to itself, a fairy thing with red round cheeks that always finds and never seeks, makes such a vision to the sight as fills a father's eye with light, and pleasures flow in so thick and fast upon his heart that he at last must needs express his love's excess with words of unmeant bitterness. Perhaps 'tis pretty to force together thoughts so all unlike each other, to mutter and mock a broken charm, to dally with wrong that does no harm. Perhaps 'tis tender too and pretty at each wild word to feel within a sweet recoil of love and pity. And what if in a world of sin, O sorrow and shame, should this be true, such giddiness of heart and brain comes seldom save from rage and pain, so talks as it's most used to do. Unlike the conclusion to part 1, in which Coleridge offers a short summary and a few explanations of the story, Coleridge chooses a different tone for the conclusion of part 2. He does not mention the story of Christabel at all. Rather, he concentrates on how and why fathers do cruel things to their children, even when they love them dearly. The speaker describes a fairy-like child who delights its father. The child represents Christabel. The speaker notes that the father experiences such an overflow of delight in his child that this excessive love can quickly turn into excessive bitterness and unkindness. The speaker then notes the close connection between opposing emotions, such as happiness and pain. The speaker appears to suggest that Sir Leoline realizes that it is Christabel's own fight. Though he loves her immensely and is a dutiful father, he realizes he will not be there to protect Christabel forever. He wishes Christabel to face the lurking danger by herself and realize her own powers. It suggests that the world is full of dangers and cruel things, and if the child is always remained protected, she will never be able to face the real world. So this is it for today. We will continue to discuss the history of English literature. Please stay connected with the discourse. Thanks and regards.